two, and one. Go out.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Blacksmith Circle podcast. With my co-host and cohort Andy Rodriguez. How
Hey,
you doing,
everybody.
Andy?
I'm doing all right, man. Just
And over our guest tonight, we got the always great Joseph Staub. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. And today's topic, we're gonna do your favorite top 10 opening songs and albums. I came up with this idea since it's the first month of 2024. I figured, let's talk about our favorite opening songs on albums. So who knows? Maybe in February I'll do favorite second songs on albums. Who knows? And continue on throughout the year. I mean, it's kind of a cool concept. It makes you think about like second songs and albums, third songs. I mean, hey, dude, it might become a regular topic. But today we're doing first songs for the month of January. Your favorite opening songs and albums. It could be any of the bands. It doesn't have to be there because we did a debut first impressions show. It had to be the first song on the debut album, but this one could be any album you want. It could be the band's last album or whatever. So that's the topic for today. Just wanted to wish everybody Happy New Year. I think we've done that. We may have done it on the last show, but anyway, and this will be the last time that could be said. So I don't think you're supposed to go past January 7th, but anyway, I'm past it. Anyway, so we're gonna go to our segment, What's Spinning, where we highlight our album of the week, what we've been listening to. Could be classic, could be new, and we'll start off with Joseph. What do you got, brother? What have you been spending this week? Anything good?
Yeah, all right. So one of the things that I picked up over Christmas with some of the gift cards I got over Christmas is this really cool box set of the first 10 Chicago studio albums.
Okay.
And I never really had listened to Chicago that much. I mean, I knew the radio hits, but I had a couple of people telling me that like, it would really be good to check out this period specifically. So I checked this out. And lately, especially, I've been listening to the Chicago Transit Authority album.
Oh, yeah. Badass.
And this album just blew me away. I was not expecting. I knew a couple tracks. I knew, does anybody know what time it is? I knew Question 67 and 78. But other than that, I really didn't know many of the tracks on this album. And this was just really, really blowing me away.
Oh, yeah.
It's just such a great kind of, I hate to say fusion because that's its own thing, but fusion of brass and kind of traditional rock, and just really, really kind of, it struck me that I hadn't really listened to this band that much before, and this is a really, really great album. I'm glad I checked it out, and I'm looking forward to getting into the rest of the box set here. So, Chicago, the first Chicago album, but this box set as well is what I've been looking into a little bit this week.
First 10 albums, right?
Yes, yeah. So it's up to Hot Streets.
That's the so what year is Odd Streets?
It's right after Terry Kath died.
Okay, all right.
So
he passed away, what, 77?
78, yeah, in there. Yeah. It's all the Terry Kath albums plus Hot Streets.
Yeah. Man, those first three, though, 1, 2, and 3. Hoo.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, and like I said, I've been loving the first one really a lot so far. So I'm excited to get into the second and third ones as well.
Dude, the horns and the heavy guitar that's on there, it's completely different from anything you ever heard on the radio from them.
Oh yeah,
so good. Yeah,
they turned into a pop band in the '80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I started off with Chicago, it was in the early '80s, and it was just the regular hits from Chicago 16 on. Now I don't even touch those albums at all. It's just pure 1 through 10 for me.
Yeah,
pure.
That might be a good box. I might have to check that one out, man.
Yeah, it's only like $30 on Amazon.
Yeah, because I only have a couple of scattered Chicago things. I don't really have a lot of Chicago, but
yeah, these box sets are just so killer. These like studio album box sets that they do, like they're really great deals, especially like for people just getting into bands. I have the ELO one. I have ZZ Top. I have Van Halen, Kansas. And there's a couple. I think Foreigner. I have one too.
Cool.
But they're really great deals just to be able to like get. And they're in. Of course, they're all in like the little cardboard sleeves.
Yeah.
But still, like 10 CDs for $35.
Yeah, if you want if you want a nice catalog for inexpensive, that's cool to go with, man.
Yeah, I got that one. I got 1, 2, 3, I think I got almost all the 10 on a vinyl. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Hmm.
this thing jams. It just
yeah.
does. And
And Andy, what do you got, brother?
okay,
What are you
I gotta
spinning this
start off
week?
with a story. On Saturday, I woke up early. I said, you know what? I was going through my Apple Music and I hit upon stuff from the '90s, and I said, I wonder if what go through all the essential albums of the '90s. So I went into that little deal that they have there, and there were about 60 albums to go through. So I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to all these one by one, even if I dig it or not. I'm going to sit down and hear it. It's essential for a reason. So when I got to the fifth one, in fact, I'm not done yet at all. I'm not even. But when I got to the fifth one, I said, I'm just going to skip this one. And I said, no, let me go ahead and hear it because I know that I had the vinyl, but I hadn't heard it, and I've had it for years, and it's just one of those things that you have in your collection that you just skip over and just don't hear. So I was driving to Louisiana, and I was listening to this album. I was like, man, this is amazing. There's just something about this album that was so good. And then I went back to this artist's life. You know, he since has passed away, and I was listening to his writing. This album was released in 1990. I said, man, you can kind of hear the torture that this man has been going through, even though nobody thought anything about it until after his demise. And I, and the songwriting was beautiful. The songs were beautiful. I'm talking about George Michael's "Listen Without Prejudice."
Mm.
This album was it's kind of about six tracks are full of ballads and jazzy overtones, but man, his songwriting was just so naked. So he was just revealing so much about himself and about the fame and Wham and about the fame that Faith had brought him. Because this was the album after Faith. It doesn't sound anything like Faith. He took a step back from the overproduction of pop music and just kind of became like a like a singer songwriter of what Elton John would become in the mid '70s, which was his biggest influence was Elton John. So there were so many tracks on there that he sings about mistakes that he's made in his life and how he's trying to redeem himself, and then when I was thinking about it and the way that his death came when he was full of despair in his life. You know,
Yeah,
it's kind of a tough listen to because he was trying to cry out at that time. But in 1990, nobody else was thinking like that at all. It was just another pop album. But you can tell by his writing and his vocal performance, just amazing on it. So I've been listening to George Michael, "Listen Without Prejudice," and just think about the title, "Listen Without Prejudice." It just makes you think again.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow, the subject matter that he was tackling was very personal.
He was maturing definitely
Yeah,
with that stuff, man.
yeah.
Um, I had a friend who had he liked George Michael a lot too, and he had a one of his albums called Older, and
Right.
uh, and
That
I
was
remember
right
him.
after.
Yeah, I remember him playing that, and I thought that was a really good album too. It was him really like maturing as like a songwriter and stuff. I mean, because everybody could thinks back at the Wham days and like
Yeah,
stuff like that, and him running around in the short shorts and the videos. And
yeah,
I mean, that was the '80s, dude.
yeah.
But I mean, he did as he got older, he did progress. He had an unbelievable voice too, man.
Oh man,
You
it was
can't
so
deny it.
strong.
I remember.
It was.
I remember when he sung at that Freddie Mercury tribute, man. He was awesome there, man.
Hmm.
Couldn't deny it. And I remember rumors were flying that he was gonna, become their vocalist and stuff, but that never happened. But I think they may have even asked him to. He may have declined anyway. So you know,
He
but
also did a
that's cool.
Queen song. Yeah, he had also done a Queen song because after that older album, he made a not a tribute album, but like an album of standards or like covers, which a lot of people do cover albums.
Yeah,
And I remember when that duet that came out with him and Elton John, and they did "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me," and
Yeah.
I hated
that.
it.
Yeah, that was on Elton John's duets album.
Yeah, and I hated it. I just why is George Michael on here? But now, as the years passed by, I was like, dude, that dude was better than Elton on that song.
Yeah, I really like that version. It's a good version.
Yeah, it took me a while to come all around to it. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to since Saturday. So I pulled out the vinyl and I threw it on, and you know how much richer music sounds through your home stereo instead of just your phone.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a whole different world.
Oh, definitely, man.
So I've been spinning that. It's so good. So good.
Yeah. All right. Well, what I've been spinning this week, over the weekend and stuff, it's kind of they're obscure band. They're a 3-piece from Sweden. If you're into like the doom metal and like stoner metal genre, it's a band called Monolord. And this is a 3-piece from Canada. This came out in 2019. It's got 6 songs on it, but they're very long songs. It's actually a double record. Really cool, like again, doom metal, stoner metal. Like if you're into the kind of that whole droning kind of style of like stoner metal, this is a great band, dude. I have 2 of their albums actually, and I like them so much that I want to get the rest of their catalog. They started up in like I think 2015, 2014. That's when their first album came out, and then so I have this one, and I have like their latest one too that came out in 2021. But this is the one I've been spinning called No Comfort, and again it's called Monolords. They're a 3-piece trio from Sweden, and pretty heavy, dude. I mean, if you know doom metal and stoner metal, you know it can get pretty heavy and stuff. So yeah, check this out, man. Great stuff, man. So that's my spin of the week. So now we're gonna get to the topic at hand. It's again, it's first songs on favorite first songs on any album that you like. Being that we're starting off 2014 in January, so I figured this would be a cool topic. So we're gonna start off with we'll do 10 and then 5 honorables, you know. So we'll start off with Joe, number 10. What do you got, brother?
Alrighty. So I went about this a little bit differently. Instead of just like all-time greatest top 10 for me, because a lot of that is territory I've covered before, we've covered before, especially on that First Impression show that I was on with you guys with the first songs from first albums. That's a lot of like the heavy hitters. These 10, I wanted to go with some that I really, really love, but I don't think get talked about as much. Yeah. And so it's ones that I think fly under the radar a little bit. And so I avoided any of those that I talked about before, so first songs off first albums. A lot of these are like later albums in a lot of bands' discographies. And none of these are in any particular order. These are just 10 that I really, really love. And so starting out my top 10, it starts out with one of the greatest drum intros of all time, in my opinion. And it's kind of experienced a renaissance a little bit in the recent years. This band actually opened up their latest tour with this song, and that is 6 O'Clock by Dream Theater off the Awake album. Cool. What a killer way to open an album, just right from the beginning drum fill that Mike Portnoy does. Yeah. And then just the kind of groove it gets into. And this is when James LaBrie still sounds amazing. He sounds great on this album, particularly on this song, I think. And it's still the original Kevin Moore era, so his keyboards sound really, really cool in this. And the band just really, really does something kind of unique for them. It has a really cool, unique feel in that. Again, first songs on albums, but I also love the way that it kind of blends right into Caught in a Web, the second track. Yeah. They kind of go together really well, and I think. But 6 O'Clock is just a great way to open this album up. Kind of a dark horse album for Dream Theater. A lot of people they love Images and Words, and then they kind of skip this and Falling into Infinity and kind of go right to Metropolis into the Jordan Rudess era. Yeah. But I think I love this album as a whole, but particularly the first side I think is really, really great. And so 6 O'Clock is a great way to open up Dream Theater's Awake album. So that's my first pick.
6 o'clock on a Christmas morning. Yeah, So they opened that up on this last tour that they did.
Yeah.
The last tour. Yeah, because I saw them in. Now that you're mentioning it, because I saw them in June over the summer, and I think that's what they opened up. So no, that's a good one, man. And then I think our lists are going to be vastly different. I think it's going to be like all over the place. So
my list itself is all over the place.
Yeah, which is cool, man. So that's a great 10, man. What do you got, Andy?
Yeah, I was about to say, I never really got into that band, Dream Theater.
But I know William Toth. I know William Toth tried to get you into them. I think a bit, but never really caught on with you, right?
Oh well, yeah, he tried it. Now, last week not last week, but beginning of the year, he sent me a big old graph of where to start and where to go, and I was like, okay, I guess.
There's
what I have to do from 2024.
Honestly, Dream Theater is one of those bands where in my opinion, the easiest way to get into them is just look up a playlist of their best songs.
Yeah.
And if there's any that you really like, maybe go listen to that album. Because their albums a lot of the time are so vastly different. You can have one that's really like in-depth, like almost like kind of Tool level prog. And then you can have something like Train of Thought that's just really dark and heavy, or even Awake's pretty heavy. Then you have Metropolis, so it has a story to it, and you can have there's like 15 different ways to get into Dream Theater. And like I said, I think the best way to really try to get into them a little bit is find just like a somebody's like best Dream Theater songs playlist, and if anything really sticks out to you, maybe check out that album or that kind of that era. Also, their live albums are great, and those are a great way to kind of get in because it has a nice mix of everything as well.
Right. Yeah, it's something that I need to look more into. I'm starting off my number 10 with a song by Jackson Brown off of a self-titled album called "Running on Empty." I love that song. I love the way it starts out the album. It's great because it's kind of like a concept album of life on the road for a band. And I'm Running on Empty is my number 10. Every time I hear that now, it also reminds me of Forrest Gump because they play that song when he starts doing his runs through through
That's right, man.
Yeah. Running on Empty. So yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm Running on Empty by Jackson Brown. Hey Mark, how's it going? Mark Alden Taylor's on there.
A fun
way commenting on stuff.
A fun fact about that album and that song in particular, most of that album was recorded live at the venue that I saw Kix play their last show at.
Oh, really?
Wow.
At Meriwether Post Pavilion in Maryland.
That's where Jackson Brown recorded that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The song Running on Empty, Load Out and Stay were both recorded there. So like I think half the album was recorded at Meriwether Post Pavilion. So
I never knew that venue was even that old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was also another kind of really cool. I never realized this until they talked about it one of the last times I was there. Meriwether Post Pavilion is also the only venue that Led Zeppelin and The Who ever played together at.
Wow.
They went out on tour together, and The Who kicked Led Zeppelin off after the first show.
And that show was there?
At Meriwether Post Pavilion.
No shit, man.
Oh, wow.
That's a great fact, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow. What year was that? Probably early on, right? As Zeppelin first.
69.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Because this was late 70s. I think this
77. I think it was
77 or 78.
Mm-hmm.
Was the Jackson Brown album?
Yep.
All right, man.
Strong album.
All right. Well, my number 10, and I tried to get like physical copies of the albums, but I have the CD of this. I don't have the vinyl, but CD's away in storage, so I don't know if one of you guys have it. When I say it, if you could throw it up for me or whatever. If not, no big deal. And this band, one of my favorite bands, actually, Cheap Trick. Now, I'm not going to go to like this normal. The normal album would be maybe either Heaven and Night or Dream Police or anything like that. But I'm actually going to go with a George Martin produced All Shook Up.
Oh, you son of a bitch! It is on my list. You son of a bitch!
I'm sorry, man.
I know what's going in my honorable mentions now.
Stop This Game, and it opens up. There you go, man. Now, I feel that that's a very underrated Cheap Trick album. I love that album a lot. It's produced by George Martin, and oddly enough, like the track opens up with that droning piano that ends off, the Beatles, A Day in the Life. They kind of open the album with that, which is kind of an homage to the Beatles because Cheap Trick is they love the Beatles, so
right.
and so I think that's, and I love the way, it starts off with the droning piano and Robin's voice, his just golden voice just comes in, man, and just, he's one of my favorite vocalists of all time. And I'm sorry, Joseph, I stole your thunder.
I thought I was going to be interested in picking this one kind of out of the blue. I thought somebody would go with either Dream Police or Hello There or something.
Yeah, but I mean, I got to go with this one. I love this opening track on this album. And people who only think of the Cheap Trick's first 4 albums. I mean, they really should get I think All Shook Up. Is it completely killer? I mean, there's 1 or 2 things on there that's a little fillerish, but I still love it though, man.
Hey Al, who the king?
Yeah, so that's a bunny thing, it's a drum thing, but. Other than that, man, I mean, I love this album. And George Martin, I mean, that they must have been a thrill to be working with him because, he was a hero to them. Would it be Beatles, obviously? So yeah, that's my number 10. Stop This Game, Cheap Trick from All Shook Up.
Wow.
So number 9, Joe. I'm sorry, man.
So that will now be moved to my honorable mentions, and I'll flip something from my honorable mentions into the list.
Okay.
So my number 9 is one that I'm sure Andy will appreciate because I know we've talked about this artist a lot in the past. Another great drum intro to a song, an instrumental track off of this artist's first solo album, and that is Peaches and Regalia off of Frank Zappa's Hot Rats.
Yes.
Yeah. What a
I love
killer way to open this album. I mean, this is probably my favorite Frank Zappa album front to back, and what a way to open it. Just one of the best little... He was known for a lot of kind of long instrumentals, and this is a great, just little 4-minute instrumental.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This tight band just wailing, a great lineup of musicians he had on this band. I mean, he always had a great lineup of musicians, but this in particular is Peaches and Regalia is not only one of my favorite Zappa songs. I think it's a great way to open this album. It was one of Zappa's favorite compositions he ever did, to the fact that he kept using it over and over again. I think there's 4 different versions of that song that appear on later albums of his, and just a great way to kick off this album. So that's my number 9 is Peaches and Regalia off of Frank Zappa's Hot Rats.
Yeah, that's a great one, dude.
Compared to all of his other instrumentals, it's such a light-hearted sound to it.
Yeah.
It's a great track.
It's one of his more mainstream instrumentals, I'd say.
Yeah, that Hot Rats was one of the first albums I really, really got into. And just to let people know out there that album only has 1 song that has vocals on it, which is done by what's that dude's name?
Captain Beefheart.
Yeah,
by Captain Beefheart. Willie the Pimp is the name of the song. So
really what track that is?
Yeah. Oh, dude, if people who that just shows how great of a guitar player Zapp, the leads on that are fucking incredible, man.
Yeah.
Whenever I don't know, man. To me, Frank was a very underrated guitar player. He doesn't get mentioned a lot for his guitar playing, but man, when he wanted to jam and kick ass, bro, I mean, throw that track on, Willie the Pimp.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And this album was one of really the first big examples of it, because it wasn't until later in the 70s that he became kind of known as go out and do a 20-minute guitar solo and just have the band vamp behind him, or doing a different guitar solo every night for different songs, to the fact where he could release a 3-disc set of just nothing but guitar solos.
Right.
This was really kind of the first big example of his guitar playing. Those early Mothers of Invention albums were more focused on the songwriting and the band as a whole.
Right.
And this is really his kind of time to shine. But like you said, Willie the Pimp particularly, he rips on that song.
Yeah. and and it's so odd that you showed Chicago earlier because this is one of the first jazz rock fusion albums.
Oh yeah.
Is Hot Rats.
Mm-hmm.
That that
Same
sound,
year as the first Chicago album.
yeah. And that's the sound that influenced the whole genre of Jeff Beck coming out and doing his
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah, fusion and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
great stuff.
Great pick, man.
Yeah. My number 9 is going to be a band that also has a guitar hero leading off, and this leads off one of my favorite Van Halen albums, and I'm talking about Mean Street. Dude, that is one of my favorite tracks.
Yes.
Billy Ross vocals and his snide remarks and his lyrics are just so badass, you know.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's off of Fair Warning, an album that is one of my favorites, but sometimes people skip over it. They don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about it as much as they should.
That's
You know,
my
It was
favorite.
it was the last of the 6-pack that I really got into as I was growing up.
oh really? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the only one my dad didn't have.
Yep. Right there. Yeah. Fair Warning. It's an awesome album, and
Yeah.
kind of tell even throughout the whole album, not just the track "Mean Streets," which is the perfect title for the song, because that album is a little grittier than what their other
It's
albums
dark, man.
are.
It's a little bit darker
It's a
than.
little darker. It's not that party that much.
Mm-hmm. And
It's
that was when Eddie's guitar tone was like perfect. That was
yeah,
I know Ian Wadley's made this comment before, but he said when somebody talks about the Brown sound, Fair Warning is the Brown sound.
That's what I think too, and it matches. It just matches like the cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just you could tell, and I think this is when Eddie and Dave really started butting heads. Like really, like I think the tension.
You can hear it on that album.
Yeah, the tension between them was really starting to really elevate and get to a feverish pitch. Because there were stories about like they'd be in the studio all day and then Eddie would come back with Don Landee at night, late at night, and redo like some of his solos and things like stuff like that. And the next morning, like the band would come in again or whatever, and they wouldn't even like notice. They they didn't even think anything was like different. But Eddie was kind of like he was kind of pissed off, and you could tell like on the tone of the album. I mean, it's some of his most ferocious playing, in my opinion, man. But that's a great pick, man.
and the riffs are a lot deeper and longer and stronger and harder than what they were. He was being more than just a flashy guitar player. He was becoming Eddie Van Halen on that album.
Yeah,
what he was becoming.
I mean, he was kicking ass since album one, but I mean, this is
you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'll get to that because Andy just stole one of my picks anyway. So. But it doesn't matter, bro. Don't my number 9 is going to be and we're speaking about George Martin and Cheap Trick. Well, let's go to George Martin and Magical Mystery Tour. I love the song Magical Mystery Tour, and I think this album gets lost in a shuffle. I mean, it's very tough to call a Beatles album underrated because it's how can you say that? But I mean, when you talk about great Beatles albums, sometimes this one gets like kind of overlooked. But this is like one of my favorite Beatles albums. I love this album so much, Magical Mystery Tour, and I love the song that opens it. The title track. And speaking of Cheap Trick, they covered that too. They did a killer cover of Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah.
But I've always loved this one, man. I mean, this was like one of the early Beatles albums that I had as a kid. This was probably like the first one I ever really had. So this holds a special place in my heart. Yeah. This album, like, it's definitely like in my top 5 Beatles albums. Sometimes it's actually number 1, man. Wow. My favorite. So, Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles. I gotta pick that one. So that's my 9.
About the only track I don't like on there is Your Mother Should Know. Other than that,
dude. Every song is killer, man.
Yeah. I love Blue Jay Way. Love Blue Jay Way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, man. So number 8, Joe.
Well, I was gonna say I think why that album is so underrated amongst the Beatles discography is I think it was kind of several reasons. I think the movie flopping was kind of part of it, but the fact that it was kind of like it wasn't even an album in England. It was just
a soundtrack kind of.
Yeah, it was just like it was a double EP, and then in America, they just took the double EP and added the singles on it from that era. And so in America, I think we experienced it as an album more. And in England, it was kind of not. It was just a kind of a stopgap between Sgt. Pepper and the White Album. And I completely agree. I think it's a really underrated album. And I think there's a reason that if you look on like the Blue Album, all but like 3 songs from Magical Mystery Tour are on that album.
Yeah.
Like
you're pretty much getting Magical Mystery Tour on that Blue Album.
Pretty much. Like I think
it's got Full on the Hill.
I think Blue Jay Wave Flying and Your Mother Should Know are the only ones that aren't on the Blue Album.
Yeah, but an album where Side 2 has Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Hello Goodbye, All You Need Is Love. I mean, come on. It's just an amazing album.
Yeah.
And you're right about Magical Mystery Tour. If you tear it down into tracks, you're like, wow, all that was on that album? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's a good album.
One of my favorites, man.
Yeah.
All right, number 8, Joe.
My number 8, this was one I had a hard time with because pretty much for a good stretch of their career, almost every album this band put out had an amazing lead-off track. And I'll just go through and name some of them. And the band I'm talking about is Genesis. And so you go through their discography, you have Musical Box, Watcher of the Sky, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Dance on a Volcano, and then you get into the pop stuff. You get Behind the Lines and Mama, Abacab, yeah. And the one that I decided to choose was it's one of their most popular albums of the Peter Gabriel era, and but it's not a track you hear talked about a lot, and that is Dancing with the Moonlit Night off of Selling England by the Pound.
Yeah.
What a killer opening track. You got Peter Gabriel coming in a cappella at the beginning, and then the band just really kicks in once the song kicks in. There's a great kind of like an urgency to the song, and Phil's drums are just amazing on this track.
Yeah.
And Steve Hackett's guitar playing particularly is great on this. He's doing some tapping on this song.
Yeah.
And this is 1973.
Yeah.
And he's doing a bunch of tapping on this song. I mean, one of my favorite songs from this era, the live performances when Peter Gabriel was still in the band of this song, are just great. He has his big costume on with the big headdress of the British Knight and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just a great opening. Excuse me. Great opening track to one of my favorite Genesis albums. Great opening track.
Awesome, man.
That's my favorite Peter Gabriel Genesis album is I'm Selling England by the Pound. You know, of course, you all start off with Nursery Crime or Foxtrot. You know, Foxtrot is always...
Foxtrot's usually my kind of... Watcher of the Skies would have been probably my pick. I mean, I didn't put that... It's not on my list, but what another great... I mean, I could have threw that on my list. I love that opening track as well.
Yeah.
And again, seeing Steve Hackett do that entire album front to back a couple months ago live was so cool. It blew me away seeing that entire album. I mean, Watcher in the Sky the whole way through. Yeah, that was my first time seeing him.
Yeah. I've seen him twice.
It was at this tiny little 500-seat theater, and I'd never been there before. It's just about less than an hour from my house. It's just little tiny theater, and for $40, and it was so good. And his band is just phenomenal, and especially getting to hear them play that entire album is just so cool.
Yeah, he's coming here in April, and I'm looking forward to it because here too he's playing a small place too. It's a small theater, and I think
he's very. I mean, I know he does like a VIP upgrade for very inexpensive. If you want to meet him and get probably only $100 or something like that. You know?
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
at his merch table, they were selling it was a Blu-ray and 2 CDs of that same program, the Foxtrot at 50 show that they'd released it a couple weeks before that, and it was signed. He signed them all. It was 25. It was $25.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it, man.
You
know,
I really need to get going on that and buy tickets for that too.
Definitely, you don't want to miss. It was
you won't be disappointed, man. He puts on a tremendous. He's doing the Gabriel era Genesis justice. He's doing it really cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a great singer with him.
Yeah.
You know, just great presentation. And I love the way he's doing. You know, every tour is like he's concentrating on a different era, like a different album or something. You know, so I think he tends to concentrate if there's like an album, I guess having an anniversary or something.
Because this was for the 50th anniversary of Foxtrot. He was doing this. He did it for like the 45th, I think, of Seconds Out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He did 45th of Selling England a couple years ago.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll do 55 years.
I'd love to see that. Yeah. And the cool part about it, my favorite track off that album, he played at the show was Firth of Fifth. He did. Yeah. That was the encore was Firth of Fifth and Los Endos.
When I saw the Genesis reunion tour in 2007, they did Firth of Fifth too. That was great, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was great. It's funny, man. Like, because I saw them in a big stadium, and in New Jersey, and I always wanted to see Genesis. I never got to see them. And when the 2007 when they reunited, I mean, that would have been great. I mean, but Peter Gabriel just has no interest in doing it.
No, but he's doing his own thing, and that more power to him.
Yeah, and it's funny though when they were going to like an old Gabriel era song, it's just like 80% of the crowd will like tune out, man. Nobody
they're like,
really
what?
know.
What's this?
Yeah, it's like people, man, do your homework.
Yeah.
But you know, they want to hear. It's the masses that want to hear the hits.
Yeah,
that's why you know when you go to Steve Hackett, you're around hardcores, man.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Oh yeah, you got when you got an entire theater shouting "A Flower" during Supper's Ready.
Yeah,
you know you're in the right place.
You're in the right place, man.
That's funny.
So, all right, Andy, go ahead, brother. What we at? Number 8.
Number 8,
man. I was hearing this song because I was going through this list this morning, and I made a little playlist. And when this song came out, man, I was singing the hell out of it. It's Steely Dan off of the album Asia. I'm talking about Black Cow. Dude, that's such a great track with some great backing vocals,
great album,
great storytelling about a breakup, and I found out what Black Cow was. It's just a milkshake, is what it is. It's a milkshake. That's the name of it, like in Upper New York or something like that. I never knew that, but you know, talking about going to Rudy's and you know seeing her and she was high. It's just a cool song, man. It's a really good track. So I'm going with Black Cow by Steely Dan.
Cool. All right, man. So my number 8, I've always loved this opening track. I mean, it's so energetic, and it's one of my favorite songs by this band. I'm going with from the Machine Head album, Highway Star by Deep Purple. I mean, I used to actually do it in a band that I was in. It was so fun to play and stuff like that, and it's just like when it just starts off, you know, it's so fucking awesome. Blackmore just rules on it. The whole band is just blazing on it. So, I mean, what more is there to say? I mean, Machine Head album is their classic. You know, it's the one album where like if somebody's gonna start and end with Deep Purple, that's usually the album. You know, so I go with that one. I mean, I could have went with Burn. Burn's a great one, and they have a bunch of good opening tracks, but ultimately, I just went with Highway Star. It's a great driving tune, obviously. I've gotten almost almost like pulled over a couple times because that's you know. But that's to me, that's a mark of a good song. So, so I'm going with Highway Star by Deep Purple. I don't have actually my CD's away, so I don't have it. Everybody knows what it looks like, though. So
I got it back here behind my head.
Yeah, it's fine. So that's my number 8. We're gonna go number 7, Joe.
All right. Well, here's a great place to slip in the one that I'm going to move from honorable mention to on my list. Burn. Great track.
There you go. There you go.
Great. My favorite Deep Purple song is Burn. What a great, I mean, just killer opening riff from Blackmore. And what an introduction for David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes to come into this band that had been on top of the world.
Yeah.
And lost 2 of arguably their most important members. and for them to basically say, no, we're still here, we're still amazing, and every member is just on fire on this track. Like I said, Blackmore's opening riff, Coverdale, and then Glenn Hughes screaming his ass off, and Ian Pace's drumming on this is just insane. And then you have John Lord coming in with that killer organ riff about halfway through. It's just so good, and it's, like I said, by far my favorite Deep Purple song, and it's a killer album too. I mean, this is easily in my top 3 Deep Purple albums as a whole. What a great way to kick it off!
That's so funny because I'm going to have a Deep Purple song too coming up, like right here. But
there's no wrong picks.
But I went a whole different route. Well, not a whole different route. Mine's going to come off the album In Rock. Talk about Speed King.
I was thinking about that. I was between Burn and Speed King.
Yeah,
I was in between Highway Star and a Speed King. I'm not a big fan of Mark III. There's just something about Mark III that I just missed Ian. I was like, come on. I just love his grittiness, and he really has that hard rock voice. And I love it. But I'm going to go with Speed King. I love the way that it starts off, just great stuff by Richie Blackmore, and how they throw in all these influential songs in there, and and it pretty much In Rock showed the movement that they're going to be doing into the 70s, leaving behind the prog pop of Mark One, which I love Mark One too, but Mark Two has always been my favorite version of Deep Purple, and it's because of In Rock, that track and eh. Oh well, just go on.
What, Child in Time? What are you thinking about Child in Time?
Child in Time, thank you. I kept on saying children, but I was like, that's not right.
Child in Time, man. All right, cool. So my number 7, and there's a band that they started off in the 80s, pretty unknown. I mean, they were in the underground, and they were probably considered a bit more, like their look was kind of glammy, but they played more, they weren't hair metal, but they were more in the Def Leppard kind of Van Halen vein. And then into the 90s, 1990, when they had their major label debut, Cowboys from Hell by Pantera, the song Cowboys from Hell, the title track. I remember first hearing that, man, and I fucking song kicked my ass, bro. I was like, that when Dime came in with that vicious guitar tone, man, I was just like, wow, dude, this is like something new. This is something that we need to look out for. And I didn't know anything about their albums before that. Nobody really knew until, they became famous, and then, people discovered. I mean, even before the advent of the internet, probably not a lot of people know. It was only when the internet came into play when people really kind of looked this band up that, they had albums before Cowboys from Hell, and it wasn't, I didn't know about it until, after Cowboys from Hell. So, and I went back from that, and I remember like, wow, they were really different. They really morphed into something, heavier and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm going to go with Cowboys from Hell from the same album by Pantera. Just a killer opening track.
Yeah, so. It really is. And what a big departure from the albums before. And in fact, I think that's the first time I met you, Al, right? Is when we did a Pantera.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah, we did it with what's his name? We just had on the show we were just on Decibel Geek last week with him.
Yeah.
So I can't remember his name now. I'm having a brain fart.
Yeah. Oh well, because when we're doing things live, we got so much going in our heads. But
I'm sorry, your name will come to me. Anyway, no, we did a Pantera album ranking, and we ranked all the albums. So, needless to say, like the '80s albums were on the bottom of a lot of lists. So,
we all know what the top 5 are, and then we usually know power metal's number 6, and then from there on.
But you know what, man? There's some good stuff on those early albums, though. They really,
I really like power metal.
Yeah, power metal is great. Their first Phil album,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
It was with Joshua Toomey.
Oh, Josh Toomey.
Josh Toomey, yes. I'm sorry, Josh. I can't, you know. Yeah, he's such a huge Pantera fan. I mean, he does.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I see we gave Mark an idea for the next BS sessions.
Yeah.
Songs that will give you speeding tickets, and I think we all know Mark's number one will be I Can't Drive 55. Love you, Mark.
Forget it, Mark. We just did your show for you already. You're done. Bye.
I can't drive 55, Mark.
Love you, Mark. Oh, boy.
So that's my number 7. Go ahead, Joe, number 6.
All right. So my number 6 is another band that was just nothing but really kick-ass album openers. And going through the 90s, they were kind of falling into hard times, and their singer quit, and they did 2 albums with a replacement singer. And this could be 2 bands I'm talking about. They did 2 albums with a replacement singer, and they weren't very well received. And so finally, the 2000s roll around, and their original singer came back, and everyone's like, oh, okay, how's this going to go? It's been like 15 years. Is he still going to have it? And everyone's like, are they going to fall? Are they going to just not be what they are when they used to be? And they said, no, Judas is Rising.
Oh, cool.
What an amazing way to open a comeback album. Judas Rising off Judas Priest, Angel of Retribution. If anyone had any doubt that Rob Halford still had it, I mean, anyone who wasn't listening to the Halford albums, I mean, first of all, if you haven't listened to the Halford albums, do that.
Yeah, great.
If anyone wasn't really following Rob Halford into the early 2000s and just like, how's this going to go? Is he going to fit back in with Judas Priest? Put this CD in, listen to the first track. You got your answer. I mean, what an amazing comeback album in general, but that first track, Judas Rising, is just such a great reintroduction to this band. Just instantly got them back on track. Just immediately. So I think for all the amazing songs that opened albums for them in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s with Painkiller, this one really sticks out to me because it was just basically them silencing all the people that were worried about what they would be coming into the 2000s, reuniting that classic lineup minus Dave Holland.
Yeah, killer album. I love that album.
Yeah, that's a great comeback album, man.
Yeah, it is. Now that's a true comeback album. It really is. From where they were coming from, and not that Tipper, not that Ripper was bad, but when you bring Halford back, it's a whole different world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we did the Iron Maiden versus Judas Priest, I think we all voted for that album.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. My number 6, man. I knew that I had to have a Metallica album, a Metallica song on here, but which one? And it just came to me easy. It was easy. Blackened. Blackened is just one of those epic tracks off of And Justice for All. It's ferocious. It's mean. The lyrics are freaking scary, and it's a good, but like 6 or 7 minute. What you need in your head for a leadoff track. Fantastic.
I think Al had picked that one too.
yeah, I can see. I kind of took his thunder on that one, but I'm going to go with Blackened.
You literally did because it's my number 6 as well.
well, Al, just go one album previous. It's still another great opening track.
I was, dude. I mean, I could go with, Battery. I can go with
Hit the Lights.
I mean,
Fight Fire with Fire.
Fight Fire with Fire. I mean, any of those 4. But ultimately, I did pick Black, and I love the way the sound swells in, and then all of a sudden, oh, dude, it just kicks in, man. It pretty much punches you in the face. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the track that I picked too. So so much for my theory of how diverse our lists are going to be. So
especially that live version at Seattle. Oh my God.
That's one of the best live shows of theirs, man. They were like really kicking ass on that live video and shit. Yeah,
and that's on the deluxe, right? That's on
Yeah.
the deluxe event.
They put it on vinyl finally. Mm-hmm. I'm
yeah,
so
because
glad they did that.
I think it was on Live Shit Binge and Purge originally.
Oh, really? Was it on that too? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the DVD is
the DVD, but the audio there you go. I have that same one. But the audio they put it on
it's on vinyl.
The super deluxe of the Injustice.
Of Justice, right?
Yeah. I don't have that super deluxe, but
it's my favorite one that they put out. I have all of them except for Kill 'Em All. And I'll tell you what, people can rag on a lot of these bands for doing these super deluxe editions and charging $500.
Metallica did it right though, man.
I mean, you can make fun of old Kiss up here for their version of Creatures of the Night that had like one vinyl and was like $300.
Yeah.
And then you can have Metallica's, particularly the Justice and the Black Album box sets, which are both amazing.
Yeah, I got the Black Album one.
It's like six vinyls, like 15 CDs, like a bunch of DVDs, and it was like barely $200, and that's your money. You're getting your money's worth from that. I think Mark asked what CD I was holding up. It is Live Shit Binge and Purge. It's the Seattle show on DVD, the San Diego show from the Black Album tour on DVD, and I think Mexico City on CD.
Originally that came out on VHS back in the 90s, and it had the kind of road case,
the big box,
the big box road case, and then they finally.
I don't even think you can get this anymore. I think it's out of print again.
Yeah, I bought the DVD version that you got. Pretty much when it came out, because I never got that VHS box version, so I'm like, I had let it go, and years later when they released on DVD, I'm like, you know what, I don't have this in my collection, and I bought it. You know, I found that Black Album. I don't know how the hell. The Black Album Super Deluxe. I found that at Walmart, and they had it marked at $35, bro.
No way.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if it must have been a mistake. Dude.
That's a misprint.
Yeah, but I'm like, dude,
that was like $250, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'll take that. You know what I mean, dude? I was like, hell yeah, dude.
Hey, do you got any more of these anywhere?
I know, man. They only had like one. They only had one copy there left, and I was like, and it was like nothing wrong with it, man. You know, and I don't know.
Funny story. I ordered that. My parents got it for me for Christmas the year it came out, and it came out in like October, I think it was. And so we had it. It shipped. We pre-ordered it. It shipped and everything. I opened it on Christmas, and it was missing one of the CDs. One of the live discs.
Yeah.
And that was the year that Amazon changed their return policy, because previously they had done a bunch of stuff where like they did extended return windows because of Christmas. They don't anymore. And so I basically had to say, look, we bought it. It was a Christmas gift. How the hell was I supposed to know in October that it was missing CDs?
Yeah, because you didn't open it until after Christmas. So.
And so they're like, best we can do is give you like a 75% refund or something. And they still wanted it back. And I'm like, fine. And I bought a new one. So I still spent like an additional like $50 to get a new one.
Right.
And it finally, jokes on them, I kept the card with the
download
with the download code on it, gave it to my friends, so we got the whole box set for free.
Oh, there you go.
That's right, because they were doing a lot of that.
Yeah. So
the download.
Give it a nice one up to Amazon on that.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Every once in a while.
So yeah, Blackened was my number 6. So we'll go to number 5 now, Joe.
All right. So this is a band that I truly do love, and I know some people, particularly one of the people who's commenting on our video right now, does not love and hates what people talk about. And we talked about a bunch of the members of that band on the last time I was on your guys' show a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Christmas albums. And that is Savatage, 24 hours ago off Hall the Mountain King. What a killer way to start an album. I mean, this is kind of, breaking it big is kind of a strong term for Savatage, but this is the album that kind of gave them a lot of added attention.
Uh-huh.
And imagine if someone didn't know this band, just put this album on, didn't know what to expect, and this here's 24 hours ago. And here's John Oliva screaming his ass off. And here's that like machine gun bass riff. And it's just such an amazing way to open an album. Sabotage is one of my favorite bands. Hi, Mark. And so I definitely had to include them on my list here.
Yeah.
And yes, Mark, I do enjoy it quite a bit.
That's right, baby. Sabotage rules, man.
Yeah.
Oh, and that TSO show I saw with my daughter was awesome, man. You know.
So, I saw the pictures you put up. They definitely went above and
beyond. I got the whole video
shit.
on my channel too, if anybody wants to check that out. So, what do you got for number 5, Andy?
My number 5 is. This could even be higher. This could have even been number 1, but I didn't put it at number 1. It got stuck at number 5, and I'm thinking maybe I should move it, but I am going to leave it where it is. My number 5 is off my favorite album by one of my favorite bands. It's off the album Paranoid by Black Sabbath. That's War Pigs.
Yeah.
That opening track just introduces the album, and is one of the greatest songs that I have ever heard. The anti-war, pro-God, just everything together, and pretty much like what Iron Maiden would say, the evil that men do is pretty much what the songs, and they weren't pussyfooting around it either. They were telling you straight out, word for word.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that song is as relevant today as it ever was, man.
They weren't beating around the bush about the meaning of it.
Yeah,
they were telling you straight up.
Yeah.
So, War Pigs by Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up, great song. Great song.
You could say the same thing about Creedence Clearwater Revival, Fortunate Son.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, man. I mean, a lot of songs, dude. It's lyrically, dude, fucking heavy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song, man, it's like, dude, you listen to that today, it's just fucking, it means just as much today as it did when it was written, man.
You do.
So.
The way that politicians are, I guess they've always been this way.
Good night, sweetheart.
It's just the way that they describe it, the way that Geezer writes these lyrics is just
Geezer, man, he's like one of my favorite lyricists, man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, fucking lyrics that he writes were incredible, man.
Yeah.
All right, so do you go with that, Andy?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
All right, my number 5, and I could have picked a number of opening tracks from this band, one of my favorite bands of all time. When I was a kid, my older brother, it was his favorite band, so I kind of grew up on them. But I'm going to go with, off of Zeppelin 3, The Immigrant Song. Just hits you hard in the face right off the bat, man. I mean, and Robert playing with dude, every time that song comes on the radio now, my daughter, sings it. She loves it, man. So, I'm going to go with Immigrant Song. I mean, just for an album that's a little more, primarily acoustic, that's a heavy track just to start the album off, man. I think that album that song kicks ass, and I love this album too. Zeppelin 3 is a great album, man. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Immigrant Song, man. I love that song. And the lyrics about basically about Vikings having sex. You know what I mean? So,
but what's really cool about that song, if people ever wonder, because sometimes I connect this together, where Iron Maiden got their galloping sound from.
Yeah.
Big time.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. So that's my number 5. So we're gonna go number 4 to Joe there.
That was Led Zeppelin was one I could not pick one song from. I mean, thinking through their discography, I think every opening song is great.
Yeah.
I mean, they never had. I'm not counting Code. I don't even know what opens that, but
We're Gonna Groove.
Is it We're Gonna Groove? So still good opening track.
Yeah.
But from Good Times, Bad Times, the whole thing. What was In the Evening? Was that what opened up?
Yeah, Even in the Evening. Great one.
Custard. Good Times, Bad Times, Custard. Yeah, Custard. Yeah, Custard Pie.
Yeah.
Just so many amazing.
Whole Lot
just
of
right
Love.
through Whole Lot of Love, Black Dog.
Yeah.
Just great opening tracks.
Yeah, pick one, man.
Just pick any of them. But yeah, so with my number 4, this is a band that there's like usually like a debate about 2 specific eras of the band that everyone debates about. One was like all the true rock fans say that this is their best era, then they got their popular era. And then ever since, people kind of just like stopped listening to their new albums until their most recent new album. Everyone loved that one, but I'm talking about the Scorpions. And this is definitely personal to me. I don't even know if like 10 people bought this album, but as I was growing up, I remember specifically this album was the first new album from the Scorpions that my dad bought when I was growing up. And right from the beginning, it has a little spoken word intro, and that is Humanity Hour 1 by the Scorpions.
Oh, wow.
With the song Hour 1. Heavy song. It blew me away when I was a kid. I was like, whoa, what is this? Because I'm used to like Big City Nights and Still Loving You, Scorpions, and like No One Like You. And then this song, I'm just like, whoa. This is before I knew a lot of the Uli stuff, or even like some of the heavier stuff that they had done. I mean, China White, I didn't know China White when I was a kid.
Yeah.
This song was like, whoa, what is this? And the rest of the album is a little iffy. There's some good stuff on this album. It's not their best album, but the opening track, Hour 1, is just, it's a really, really catchy song, but it's heavy. And I really, really, really dig this one. For people that never really checked this album out, check that song out. There's a couple good songs on this album that people might like. Definitely a little too ballad heavy, but overall, check out the song Hour 1 by the Scorpions. It's a great opening track.
What album was that? I can't tell by
Humanity Hour 1, right?
Humanity Hour 1. It was like 07, I think.
Oh, it was
okay. Yeah. It was
I never would have thought of them at that era.
Yeah. They actually I like a lot of the albums they did in the 2000s. Unbreakable was really good.
Yeah.
And this one was pretty hit or miss. It had some really good songs on it. Sting in the Tail had some good stuff on it.
Yeah. Their last album was really good too.
Rock Believer was amazing. That
was good.
That one was great, and even Return to Forever had some good stuff on it too. But like, this is one that like nobody knows. this is one that maybe like 10 people bought. You had to buy it as like an import and stuff. Like nobody in the U.S. was selling this album in 2007. So if anyone doesn't know this album, I definitely recommend checking it out at least once. Like I said, it's got some high and low points, but the opening track, Hour 1, is a really, really good track.
Speaking of that album, man, rest in peace to James Kotak.
Yeah, that's actually what made me think of this when I was I was watching the I posted about it earlier today, but I was watching, where's it at? I don't even know where I put it. There it is. The Live at Wacken 2006, the reunion show that they did with Herman Rarebell and Michael Schenker and Uli John Roth. What a killer DVD this is! And when I saw the news about James Kotak, I immediately pulled this out because he's kicking ass on this DVD.
Yeah.
It's a great kind of snapshot of that era of the band, and of course now Mickey D's doing great with them. And but yeah, rest in peace to James Kotak.
Yeah.
I think you posted about that DVD, didn't you, Joseph?
Yeah, I posted about it this morning.
Yeah.
And I posted the Two Kingdom Comes album that I played on. I played on the first two.
Mm-hmm.
And, Kingdom Come kind of got lambasted back in the day, but I revisited those albums, and they're actually pretty fucking solid, bro. They're not bad, dude. They're really actually pretty good. The first one was produced by Bob Rock, and it sounds great, And I remember my older brother. Yeah, I remember my older brother getting the cassette of that, and because "Get It On" was hot at the time. That song, and everybody, that was the song that was like the Zeppelin. My God, these guys are ripping off Zeppelin. But Whitesnake at the time. There was so many bands that were ripping them off. They just.
Bonham had a big hit in the late 80s.
He got away with it because he had the last name, but I mean, that Whitesnake '87 album is that if that's not Zeppelin, esque. I mean, I don't know what is, bro.
Yeah, it's Zeppelin with the distortion turned up a little bit.
Yeah, that's
liked.
Yeah. So
I was really happy I got to see the Kingdom Come reunion tour a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
They played at M3 in 2019 when they
first St. John on vocals, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's a great vocalist too.
Yeah, it was him on vocals plus the other original 4 members.
All the original members besides Lenny Wolf.
Besides Lenny Wolf. And it was the only time I ever got. I've never seen the Scorpions. It's such a shame. That's like the #1 band on my list I really want to see live, and so I never got to see James Kotak with them. But I was lucky enough to see him with Kingdom Come in 2019.
Yeah. I saw Scorpions a few times with James, but ironically in 1988 I saw that Monster Rock tour where Kingdom Come and the Scorpions were on the same bill. Yeah. When it was Kingdom Come was the first band on that bill, and they they kind of got booed a little bit. But I mean, honestly, dude, I listened to those 2 albums. I was like, there's some pretty good fucking shit on here, man. And I know they've had a ton of albums after that. I mean, kind of Lenny Wolf kind of broke that band up, and then he revamped it and did a bunch of albums and stuff.
Yeah, he kind of pulled a Dave Grohl on the 3rd album. He played all of it himself.
Oh wow!
Yeah. He would have maybe a drummer on the album or whatever, but those albums are actually hard to find actually over here, but yeah, rest in peace to him, man. So that was what number?
That was my number 4, I believe.
4.
Yeah, 4.
Go ahead, Andy.
What was the name of the second track that was released off their debut album by Kingdom Come? It was a ballad. I forgot the name of it.
It was almost kind of like a ripoff of Since I've Been Loving You, right?
Yeah.
It was very reminiscent of that. Track. I think What Love Can Be or something like that.
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, What Love Can Be. I think that's the name of the song. Yeah. Dude, it's definitely so much like Since I've Been Loving You.
Maybe that's why I liked it so much.
Yeah. My brother and I, when we jammed that tape though when it came out, man, we liked it.
I haven't heard it in a while.
Yeah, pull it out, man. It's pretty good, man.
I gotta play it. My number, where are we? 4, right?
4, yes.
I was talking about Elton about Elton John a little bit earlier today, and this song popped up on my
Spotify.
Oh well, on my Apple on random.
Oh, okay.
Was random.
iPod?
Yeah, and we had already talked about doing this show, so I was like, that's a pretty cool song, and it was a very epic song, and it's off of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I'm talking about Funeral for a Friend.
I can't believe I forgot that song.
I forgot that one too, man.
It's so un-Elton John like. I mean,
and yet that's probably my favorite Elton John song of all time, dude. I love that song so much.
And it jams, even the second part of the song, because it's like a 2-part song pushed in together, and man, it's just a great track.
It's probably the most prog that like Elton John ever got,
And Dream Theater did a cover of it.
Yeah, and Dream Theater did a cover. Yeah, on the Change of Seasons album, like they have the Change of Seasons songs. And then the second album, the album is all them live at Ronnie Scott's. I think they were doing all covers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a Zeppelin medley.
Huh?
They did a Zeppelin medley. They did.
They did Genesis, Turn It On Again.
Yeah, they did this big like medley where it was Pink Floyd, In the Flesh, Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas,
Turn It On Again,
Love and Touch and Squeezing by Journey, which is a weird track to shove in that medley. But anyway,
but he still sang the shit out of it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's when James's voice was awesome. Still,
yeah, it was either right before or right after he ate the bad fish.
All right, so that's your 4, man. That's a great track, man. I love that. Yeah, that's a good one, man. So my number 4, Joseph touched on Judas Priest earlier. but I'm gonna go to my favorite Judas Priest album, Stay in Class and Exciter. You gotta give it up for that, bro. I mean, the double bass that just starts that song off, like, kind of set trends in metal, bro. After that, like with double bass drumming, and I mean, you could trace double bass back to the album before Sin After Sin with Simon Phillips, but to start off the album, just to I mean, Les Binks, man, he just fucking rules, dude. And I love Stay in Class. It's like one of my favorite. It's my favorite Judas Priest album, actually.
Great album.
I love the cover of that. I just love everything about that album. And that opening track, Exciter, is just, dude, that's just like killer, man. You want to talk about a song that will make you drive fast as well, man? That's one of them.
And not only that, it opens up Unleashed in the East.
Yeah, which is one of my favorite live albums of all time. So, but yeah, I'm going with Exciter, man. Judas Priest, Stay in Class, dude. Number 4.
Man, the vocals on there. You would thought that Rob's vocals would have jumped out of it.
Unbelievable, man.
Oh.
That band, was just. I mean, I would have felt bad for any band they were opening, like that Judas Priest. I mean, when Judas Priest opened for Kiss in the '79 Dynasty tour, I mean, anybody who witnessed that, it must have been the same feeling as like when Van Halen was opening up for Sabbath, and I mean, they must have just fucking just kicked their ass, dude.
No.
Can you imagine the energy of Unleashed in the East Priest, like opening up for Kiss, and not to say like I love Kiss and stuff like that, but by that time, the glitz and glamour were really like getting to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was Kiss, not in a great place.
yeah. Even though the Dynasty album's good, it ain't no Unleashed in the East, right?
Well, the album was great. The tour was not.
yeah. So, it's my number 4. So we're gonna go number 3, Joe.
Alrighty. So my number 3 is definitely kind of an out of left field pick, and this is a band who over the past 10 years has just been absolutely shitting out great albums. Every 2 years is putting out an amazing album, and this is my favorite track of all the albums they've been putting out in the past 10 years, and it's an opening track, and that is Striper, Yahweh, off of the Fallen album.
Yeah.
I mean,
the quality of their albums, man, holy shit, dude.
Yeah, those last 5 albums they've put out since 2013.
Amongst their best, man.
I think it's better than anything they did in the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love some of those 80s albums, but this run they've been on, and they just put an album out last year. They're putting another one out this year. Wow. They're putting an acoustic album out this year.
And Michael Sweet's been doing something in between that.
Sweet and Lynch just put out another album. Michael put out another solo album, I think. The man never stops.
No.
And they tour all the time. I've seen them 3 times in the past couple years. I'm seeing them again in May. And they're doing a big VIP fan fest or something this year. They're doing an acoustic tour. They're doing an electric tour. They are just a model of efficiency, but these albums they've been putting out are just so good. And this is The Fallen, which came out in 2015, and the opening track, Yahweh, it's brutal. I mean, anyone in this day and age who thinks Striper is honestly that Striper, that is not this Striper. This Striper is basically coming to say, yeah, we're Christians and we're singing about God, but we're gonna bash your brains in while we do it.
Yeah.
And just what an amazing run they've been on, and this is probably one of the best albums they've done in that run. And Yahweh is just an amazing opening track. And I definitely, if anyone doesn't know these past couple Striper albums, 100% I recommend checking these out.
Yeah, you should check them out, Andy. I mean,
start with the one that was in 2013 when they really first got back together, No More Hell to Pay, it was called.
Yeah. Goddamn Evil is great.
Yeah, Goddamn Evil. That was the first time I saw them, was that tour, and then even The Devil Believes, and then the last one, The Final Battle. They're all just great albums. And there's one that I really like. Right before they put out No More Hell to Pay, they did an album where they re-recorded a bunch of their 80s songs and made them sound a shit ton heavier. And it's really good. And it's very rare that a band from the 80s can re-record all their hit songs in 2013 and it sounds better than it did in the 80s.
Yeah.
Is that The Second Coming?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm looking at their stuff, and really, to be honest with you, I haven't heard their music after "In God We Trust."
Yeah,
'88.
but the Second Coming, they re-recorded like a couple songs from the first EP, and then like 5 or 6 songs from each Soldiers Under Command and To Hell with the Devil, and they give the songs entirely new life, and it's basically, if you go to see them live, if you see how they're playing them live now, that's what you're hearing on that album. It's not like the kind of like poppier production that their
Yeah,
80s albums
Yeah.
had.
yeah,
It's a lot more stripped back, and
yeah,
it sounds so good.
yeah.
I want to hear a sing along song off of that album and see how that sounds.
It sounds great, and that's when I just saw them a couple months ago. That's what they opened up with.
Okay, huh? Interesting.
Um,
Check it out.
well, I was going to mention something too about Striper. Yeah, but I mean, I saw them on that goddamn Evil tour. That was the only time I never saw them back in the '80s. So I saw them. That's the only time I've seen them somewhere, and I want to see them again. I actually saw Michael Sweet when he sang with Boston. I saw a
Nice.
tour where he sang with Boston, and that was great. He played guitar and sang, and I thought that was awesome. But yeah, man. I mean, oh, I was gonna say, Andy, man. A good retrospective on Striper, actually by Razor Fist. You ever look up Razor Fist? He does a retrospective on Striper. Look up his retrospective and watch him. He's a big Striper fan, and he goes through all the albums and talks about them, and it's kind of a good primer if you want to, if you want to see what they're all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I used to really love them in the '80s, and
Yeah.
and I've got several of their albums, but it was all their. I've got all their '80s albums, but after
Yeah.
that,
And their '80s albums are great too, though.
Yeah, they
I love
are.
their '80s albums. I kind of dismissed them back when I was in high school because of the whole Christian thing, and I've even even when I met Michael Sweet, I like admitted I talked to him. I got to meet him actually, and on that goddamn Evil tour, I love the way like they did it. Like you can just buy something at the merch table, and you got a ticket to meet them. I mean that's it. It's as simple as it was as simple as that. I bought a CD.
They're insanely cool guys.
Yeah, they're really cool guys. I bought a CD. I bought that goddamn Evil CD because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And they all signed it for me. And I mean, they were they didn't really let you take pictures with them though, but I kind of wish I did. But I got to talk to Michael Sweet a little bit, and I talked to him about it. I'm like, dude, I mean, I told him like this is the first time I actually ever seen you guys live. I kind of was telling him I kind of dismissed you in the '80s because of the whole Christian thing, and I admitted that to him. And he's like, yeah, a lot of people did, But I told him I came around to you guys, man. You guys really, I mean, they kick a lot of fucking other bands' asses, dude. They're not.
Oh yeah.
They're not like people thought of them as like pussies and shit. They weren't, dude. They sang. I mean, they did ballads too. So I mean, but the ballads are great. I thought they had really good ballads too. So
it was a kind of funny story. The last time I saw them, I've seen them on the last 3 tours. So each of the last 3 albums, I've seen them on that tour. And this past September was the last time I saw them, and I'm seeing them again in May at the M3 Festival. They play a lot at the M3 Festival, which is hilarious. Seeing them on a bill with like Rat and Kicks and all the other like big '80s bands that are like the exact opposite of them, but they're playing right alongside them, and the crowd really gets into it. And but this last September, I went to a Christian rock festival, and I saw them at a Christian rock festival, and they were like about 2/3 of the way through the day, so it was still light outside. They were kind of like it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was an all day thing. They played at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The headliners weren't on until like 9, I think, but they played their set, and everyone was just absolutely loving it. The headliners were Skillet, and they came out and were talking between one of their songs. They're talking about they just couldn't believe that they all got all the bands that were playing all day just kind of huddled along the side of the stage and watched Striper play. They were like, the lead singer of Skillet talked about. He's like, I've never seen 15 different bands all huddled together, standing on the wings of the stage, just kind of in awe of watching these like legends of Christian rock.
I really think Striper is more beloved today than they were originally.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I think like they've kind of time has been kind of them. I think they built up, people really kind of reevaluated them, and I think they gave them another chance and really went back. And because I remember, man, like the hardcore metalheads when I was in high school, they fucking hated them, man.
Mhm.
You know, they're Christian and all this shit, you know, and
well, I think in general Christian rock is a lot bigger now than it was back then.
They were pioneers in that shit, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And also I think a lot of the metal community has reevaluated them, especially after these last couple albums.
And how heavy they got. Yeah.
They're like, people are like, wait, these guys can actually play really good heavy metal music. And everyone's like, and everyone who's like been fans of everyone's like kind of, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
They've always been this good.
Yeah.
But I think everyone's got both sides have kind of reevaluated them a little bit, between Christian rock in general becoming a lot more popular. And I think a lot of those bands were really influenced by Stryper. And so you see at Christian festivals like this, Stryper kind of getting held up by a lot of these bands saying, this is what allowed us to be here.
Yeah.
And then now you have the metal fans that are coming a lot more around to them. And it like I said, seeing them at M3 where it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and then halfway through you have Stryper throwing Bibles out and everyone's into it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I really do need to evaluate their later albums.
Yeah, check out that Razor Fist episode on that,
definitely.
It's really good, man. He does. I love his retrospectives. His Metal Mythos series.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called. So yeah, I mean, he does a lot of different. He does Sabbath. He does Priest. He did a really good
Motorhead one.
Motorhead one. Yeah, Saxon.
Yeah, he did a good
Sabbath,
Saxon one.
You know, I mean, he's done a lot of great ones. You know, and then he's into black metal too. So he's done like Bathory and like a couple like more extreme things. But he's really like diverse in his kind of like what he listens to.
He did a Michael Jackson one.
Yeah, he did a Michael Jackson one. He loves Michael Jackson.
Okay.
He did a Dokken one, which was great. You know, so yeah, check him out, man.
Yeah, I sure was. That's pretty interesting.
So that's you're number 3, right, Joe?
Number 3.
Yeah. So go ahead, And.
Yeah, my number 3 is so funny because y'all went through every Led Zeppelin album. I almost talked about every song except for the one that I chose for my number 3. Not one of you said the best opening song on a Led Zeppelin album. I'm talking about The Song Remains the Same.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That song, it is so great.
Yeah.
Jimmy is almost going off the rails on his guitar.
And I can't believe he's 80 years old.
Happy belated birthday to the one and only Jimmy Page.
Holy shit.
That dude is just amazing. I mean, he was the reason why he introduced us to the Guitar Hero, the guitar guy, guitar solos, and then we've talked about so much about his production work that he did for the Led Zeppelin album.
Yeah.
There's no other production that sounds so crystal clear, and of course he did it with love. It's his own music, So, I'm going to go with The Song Remains the Same. It's also the title.
Another great
album.
That's another great opener, man.
Yeah, it is, man. You just comes out and that was my favorite Zeppelin album for a while, but it's been going back and forth lately. But man, Houses of the Holy will always have a place in my heart. But that's a great opening track.
All right, cool, man. So my number 3, I'm going to a different Sabbath album. I'm going with the title track from Sabbath Plays Sabbath. It's probably my favorite, and it's my favorite Sabbath album is Sabbath Plays Sabbath. And what the stories I heard was when they were recording that album, or trying to come up with ideas. Iommi had a writer's block. He wasn't coming up with anything at all, like no ideas, nothing, and then all of a sudden out pops this Sabbath Plays Sabbath riff, and it just sort of kick-started the whole writing process for that album. And I love that album. It's like, to me, it's like Sabbath kind of prog, with their, you could say it's like prog metal almost, like kind of the birth of that, They had Rick Wakeman on that album, so which was really cool. And I pulled out this, and I haven't, because I have a lot of the Sabbath albums on vinyl, but I do have this monster box set right here, man. So it's Sabbath from 70 to 78. It's got all the Ozzy era, and I haven't even broken it open yet. But this weekend, I might break it open, man. But it's got everything on here, man, and it's got like mono singles and really cool stuff in it. So I want
Oh
to.
wow, I've
I
never
want
even
to.
seen that box set.
Yeah, dude, it's freaking cool as hell, man. Look at all the stuff that's on there.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's got all the albums and it's got like some additional content. Like I think it's got like tour books and it's got like a lot of the tour books. It's got some singles in here and stuff like that. So it's really cool. I picked it up a long time ago and I just never got around to opening it. But again, number 3 is Sabbath Blaze Sabbath, man, by the Almighty Black Sabbath. So number 2, Joe.
Alrighty. So again, we've been talking about bands that have a ton of great opening tracks, and I could have gone with many of them, but as you can tell with my list, I've been kind of skewing to some newer albums by bands, and this is one of my favorite albums of the last 5 years, and it's a band that, for all intents and purposes, everybody thought was dead. Like, there was the rumor mill for a couple years. There were some pictures taken in Vancouver, and then out of nowhere, in the middle of a pandemic, all of a sudden on Twitter, the teaser got posted, and everyone kind of went nuts. And they put the first single out, and everyone's like, "Okay, this is pretty good. This is pretty usual quality from these guys." And then they put the album out, and everyone's like, "Wow, this album is really good." And right from the beginning, with the opening track, Realize, what a great way to kick off this album. And just right from the beginning, Angus's guitar, and then you hear Brian come in, the voice you never thought you'd hear again.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's just it just sends the goosebumps up your arms. Just a great way to open this album. It's not even my favorite track off the album, but it's such a great
album. Damn, it was
it's
good.
such a great album. And I mean, I always have a soft spot. Through the Mists of Time is my favorite song on this album. I think that immediately catapulted into like my top 10 AC/DC songs. But this album is, and they've had, I mean, I thought Rock or Bust was a really good album.
Yeah.
Black Ice was a little, it was too long. But they've been pretty solid over the past couple decades as far as albums go. I thought Ballbreaker was a really good album. Had a couple meh songs on it. Stiff Upper Lip was okay, but they put this album out that nobody was expecting.
Yeah.
And when the world needed AC/DC the most, in the middle of a global pandemic, they said, "Okay, here's what we've been working on.
Let's just drop an album.
Let's just drop an album. This is what we've been working on for the last 2 years." And oh yeah, those pictures that you saw in Vancouver in 2018, they were correct.
Yeah.
What an album! I hope it's not, but if this is what AC/DC goes out on,
yeah, that's a great way to end. If they're going to end on the album, man, to me, for me, that's the best album since like since Flick of the Switch, because I like Flick of the Switch a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, I love Flick of the Switch.
I agree.
That's one of my favorite Brian era albums, actually. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's like kind of like the Brian era Powerage. Like, to me, very raw, stripped back. You know,
it's funny. My top 5 favorite albums of the Brian era are the first 3 and the last 2.
Yeah,
those are my top 5.
Yeah, that album is freaking killer, man. I need to go back and listen to that album again. I haven't listened in a while.
The reason I put it on here, I just listened to it not too long ago. I'm like, my God, this album just came out of nowhere, and it had no right to be this good.
Yeah,
and it is.
Yeah.
Yep, I had bought it the first week it came out.
I pre-ordered this thing.
I got that box version that lights up.
Yeah, the lights up.
Yeah.
I have that one.
Free T-shirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that wasn't the version that I got.
Some of them did.
Huh?
Some of them did. Like, there was a bigger box that had a T-shirt.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I didn't get that one. One I have is just like the box. I have the vinyl of it too.
Okay.
But yeah, but you have that album? You only have the CD out, Andy?
I've got the CD to that, yeah.
Yeah,
I bought the CD because it was a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But I probably will go look for the album itself. I really haven't been doing doubles anymore, but that really does belong back here. It's a really good album.
Yeah.
Yeah, because to me, I liked them. Well, of course, you like every AC/DC album, but Razor's Edge was like the top for a while for me. because Ball Breaker was okay, all those other ones were okay, but Power Up was just like wow, these guys still bring it, and with ease too. It just felt right. Yeah.
Yeah, see, Razor's Edge, I liked it when it came out, but I don't know, that album has not aged well with me.
Okay.
There's only a few select tracks I like on there, but overall, I think, like I said, it hasn't aged well with me. I mean, if you like it, that's awesome, dude. But
Thank
for
you.
me, it's not. It doesn't even fall in like the top. It falls in, about in a lower tier.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
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 same here. There's
okay.
like, I love the title track, and I love Fire Guns is amazing.
yeah.
I like Money Talks. That's a good. I like of all the singles, I like
Thunderstruck?
that the most.
Yeah, I was
I
never huge
never
on Thunderstruck, man.
I never need to hear Thunderstruck again.
Oh, I love Thunderstruck.
Yeah, I'm burnt out on that one.
Oh, I
But listen, I'm burnt out on
play that
Shook
song
Me All
every
Night
day.
Long too. So, you know.
Huh.
But anyway, that's So that was your
Number
two,
two.
right, Joe? Okay, go ahead, and
My number two, I had to have a Beatles song in here somewhere, but which album am I going to take it off of? And I went with the title track of A Hard Day's Night.
Nice.
It's such a great track.
that
That
opening
whole album,
chord.
Hmm.
that was one of my favorite Beatles albums for a long time, all through high school and to my early years of college. That was my Beatles album to go to. I loved it. That's fantastic, and I still do. And that's my number two is A Hard Day's Night. I just love the way it just ring. I mean, it's ringing in a new
That
era.
famous opening chord,
Hmm.
man.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, another band that had all a ton of radio. I mean, Hard Day's Night, Help, Taxman,
yeah.
Sergeant Pepper, Magical Mystery Tour, Back in
No reply.
USSR, Come Together, No Reply. Yeah.
Yeah, you could have got no reply too. Jeez,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I was standing there. Just their early stuff.
Yeah.
Just some good stuff. So I'm going to go with the title track of A Hard Day's Night.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So my number two, Andy touched on this earlier, but I got to go Mean Street, Van Halen. My favorite Van Halen album of all time is this one, and Mean Street. What a way to open up. You know, with Eddie just sounding like an alien, just tapping in. You know, it's a slap tap thing he does to open up the album, and and just the darker aspect of the darker tone of the album. It's my favorite guitar tone of his. You know, again with the whole Joe touched on it earlier, like the brown sound. The brown sound really was described as Alex Van Halen's snare sound originally. That was the original. That's what Eddie meant about a brown sound was the because Alex Van Halen, man, he has a very distinctive snare drum sound. Like when you hear that drum sound and snare, you know it's him. It's instantly recognizable. And Eddie called that like a brown. The reason why he called it brown sound is because it sounds like you're hitting a log, like a log. It's got that kind of sound to it, real deep, rich kind of snare sound. And somehow the brown sound got applied to Eddie's guitar tone. And I think this album has my favorite guitar tone of his, man. I mean, he just sounds ferocious on here, you know. And it's my number one Van Halen. I can go between this one and the first album as like my number one. Uh, to me, the first four albums are flawless, dude. I mean, just not. There's no one bad note in there, you know. I love Diver Down in 1984 too. I mean, hey, listen, the first six pack, you know. But I mean, the first four are just to me flawless, dude. You know, and then Diver Down they get a little more popular, but I mean that's still a great album, man. I that's a great summer album for me. You know,
Mhm.
Diver Down,
Oh yeah.
and then 1984 1984 just celebrates 40 years, man. What was it yesterday? I
Yeah.
can't believe it, dude. Like 40 years, man.
Oh,
You know, and that was my soundtrack to my summer of the '84. You know, I made a post about it, about how I used to ride BMX with like my friends and stuff, listening to that tape on a boombox, and I was like, that was my soundtrack to summer of '84, man. Such fond memories, man. I was only 12 years old, you know, so it was cool, man. But yeah, fair warning. So I'm gonna go Mean Street, my number two. So now we're down to the number one, and Joe, man, kick it off, brother.
All right. So this, I think, is a really underrated album from this band. I think it's an underrated band in general, and I've talked a lot about them lately. And this is a song that, right from the get-go, from the first note, just blows you away. It comes out of kind of nowhere. You put the album on, and the first thing you hear is a big opening riff, and that is Black Blade by Blue Oyster Cult, off of the Cultosaurus Erectus album.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere, that riff comes in, just right at the beginning, and just really cool. There's like kind of weird like effect on the vocals throughout the verses, and then the chorus comes in, the riff comes back in throughout the chorus, and just really cool kind of effects throughout the song. And just the band is just ripping on this one. It's one of their heavier songs. But it's a great way to open this album. I think this is a really underrated album, one of my favorites from them, and I think this is just a great way to open this up. It's one that I don't hear people talk about too much. And I've been on a huge Blue Oyster Cult kick lately. I had to put this.
But you got that live album, right?
Oh yeah. I've been streaming that. I got to get for hard copies because after Joseph had mentioned it, dude,
that's killer, man.
Badass.
I'm so ready for the next two to come out. Like I said, that's the first of a three set that they're coming out, and especially, of course, my favorite is Secret Treaty. So I have to wait till the third one comes out to hear that album in its entirety. But yeah, I'm really excited. Hopefully they don't wait too long to put those out.
Those first three albums, so that black and white period, man, just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yep.
Oh, look at that.
Tyranny and Mutation.
Yeah.
That'll be the next one coming out.
Yeah. You got
there's the first one.
There it is. Yeah. Beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's golly.
Yeah.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah.
T-Rex one over there.
So good, man.
And for a band that's basically known for 3 songs, that had this whole
huge discography. Their catalog is so good, man.
Even after the 80s, I mean, Heaven Forbid is an amazing album in the 90s, and then you had the most recent one, Symbol Remains, is just so good. And I'm glad that they still play so many songs, and that they included a lot on these sets. I mean, you look at the set list for these 3 nights, they included like 5 or 6 songs off of Symbol Remains. It's just such a killer album.
Yeah. If that ends up being their last album, that's a great way to go out to.
They're another one that I'm like, if that ends up being it, I mean, what a way to end your career. One of probably your best albums since probably this.
Yeah. Great, man. That's a great number 1, dude. I love that you went with BOC, man. BOC, they really need people need to expand out of those 3 songs more with them, man.
Because those 3 songs are kind of silly. I mean, that doesn't even begin.
And they're great songs. I mean, I love all 3 of their songs. Burning for You is one of my favorite cult songs.
Yeah.
Godzilla
is a great. I mean, seeing them in concert, them doing Godzilla, that's so much fun. It's just
it is.
You hear the stomping, and
Eric Bloom was always like, I hear a bass, that's the bass coming, and like
Attack of the Bass. Oh boy!
Yeah, no, it's such a great band, and I told the story about Buck Thorma dating his daughter, dating one of my high school friends, and I got to meet him and stuff. It was just so surreal going to my friend's house, having like Buck and his wife sitting on the couch as I walk in. And you're trying not to fanboy out. I'm keeping my cool.
Yeah, you're just like,
in the back of my mind,
I'm like, that's Buck Dharma.
But I just totally was normal to him, man. I didn't like geek out. He was just such the coolest dude, man. We just talked about everything. It was me and my friend. I was dating his daughter, and like another 2 high school friends. And I was like 4 of us hanging out in the kitchen with Buck, and we were just shooting the shit about everything, man. About wine and sports and fucking movies, and it was just so cool, dude. And I was wearing a Rush shirt, and he was like, "Yeah, we toured a lot with those guys," and so he told some road stories, and I was like, "Dude, this is like freaking me out, dude," because I didn't even bring up music to him, like I didn't want to be that, but he brought it. I let him naturally like bring it up, man, and it was fucking so cool, dude. And I didn't like it. Wasn't like that. And that night, I didn't ask him, "Oh, can I get a picture with you?" And like, I didn't. I completely just fucking. I didn't do any of that stuff, dude. You know, I got a picture with him, but it was like when his daughter got me and a bunch of my friends, got my wife, and we all had our wives and girlfriends and stuff like that. And she hooked us all up with tickets to when they played in Staten Island, like years ago already. It's going back probably, almost 15 years ago. And yeah, we were like fucking. We had like the whole like third row. We had great seats. And then he came out and I hung out with her, and we got like a group picture like with him, you know.
Wow.
But I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to like, can I get a picture with you and all that shit, you know. I just was like,
can I get the set list?
yeah, exactly. You know that set list from 1978? You still have that in your collection?
Well, they're a band that I love because they never, other than the 3 songs they have to play every night.
Yeah,
they're a band that
they vary their set lists.
Yeah, kind of like Cheap Trick. They're not afraid to pull out just some deep cuts. And like when I saw them 2 or 3 years ago now, it was at M3. Like all these weird bands kind of get pulled into M3 that are just not really in the same kind of scene. And I saw Blue Oyster Cult there, and they Dr. Music they played, all of Mirrors, and all these other kind of, and they were playing stuff off of Symbol Remains. They were kind of they pulled a bunch of stuff off the first albums they played. Then came Last Days of May, and just so many great tracks from that early period. And it was just
Hot Rails to Hell.
Hot Rails to Hell, yeah. Just so many great tracks in that early period. And I'm just they're a band that I was really excited I got to see, and I hope I get to see them again because they're such a great band. And that's a band that I really have to thank the Rock and Metal Combat podcast for getting me into, because early on they've done a couple. I think they've done like 4 or 5 Blue Oyster Cult reviews.
Oh, really?
And they always talk about, because I know especially Ralph's always been a big Blue Oyster Cult fan, and that was a band that Ian's dad really got him into, was Blue Oyster Cult. And so that's a band that they both really, really love. And it just hearing them talk about them, of course I always knew the big hits, but I went out, and thankfully they're a band that has those little like 5 CD box sets for pretty cheap on Amazon. That's like the little cardboard one.
I'm trying to find all their original vinyl as I go to vinyl shops. I'm trying but it's tough to find some of them. But some of them, when you find them, I mean, you can get pretty good. You can have them in pretty good shape for a decent price. So they're usually not that expensive.
Yeah. I have this one. I think I have Fire Unknown Origin. I think I have a couple of the 70s ones, but some of them, you're right, it's just like you'd never see, like, surprisingly, I've never seen Agents of Fortune on vinyl, but I've seen a couple of the black and white albums. But
I got this one on there.
Oh, you do have it. There you go.
Fortune.
Yeah.
I got that Cultosaurus Rectorus.
Mm-hmm.
I could never pronounce it, but
Cultosaurus Erectus.
So much about this album.
Yeah.
Then I got this.
It's a live
Some Enchanted Evening. Yeah.
Enchanted Evening, and then I got on cassette. The other live one, the
on your feet, on your feet, on your knees.
Yeah. I got that one on cassette.
Yeah.
That album is like one of the biggest shames ever that it wasn't like a quadruple live album, because you look at some of the set lists they were playing at the time, they were playing like 20 song set lists, and it's all
single.
It's a double album.
Is it a double? Oh, okay, all right.
But it's only like 12 songs. It's like 3 songs on each side or something like that, and it's two covers at the end. So they only played like 3 songs off each of the first 3 albums on that album. But there's like, you look at like, so many songs are not, I mean, like from those first 3 albums that aren't on that they were playing live. I'm just like, what I wouldn't give to get like a full live concert from the 74, 75 band it would just be so cool.
Yeah.
How I also got started with Blue Oyster Cult was when I first started on Facebook. I've only been on Facebook since 2020. I think I got on there during COVID. And there was this little thing that I used to do called Drop the Needle. And like 3
with Will Toth, right?
Oh yeah, well this was before Will Toth.
Oh, okay.
It was me and 3 other guys, and we would spin at the same time or stream at the same time and comment. Well, one of the guys' picks was Spectra.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I thought that album was so good.
That's a really good album.
Spectres, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when
I Love the Night and
really,
Golden Age of Leather.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a pretty cool concept because you would hear it at home, but then comment, because we would do like 5, 4, 3, 2 drop, and then we'll listen to it at the same time, and then talk about the songs that were playing. It was pretty cool, actually.
What?
Now I kind of want to still do that on this kind of format, but just not press record, just play an album and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because Mark Alden Taylor and I did that for the White Album last week. I think it was last week. It was sometime last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was last week because I wanted to get on, but I wasn't able to.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't know. Next time we'll do a double album, but
yeah, that's a bit long. That's
yeah.
But still, man, it was still fun though because we just talked about everything, sports or whatever, while the album was playing in the background.
Yeah. Cool,
so
man.
I want to do that again because that was pretty cool. So that was your number one, right?
That was my number one.
Go ahead, Andy.
All right. My number one was a big change in music. Came out in 65. And I'm talking about Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone, which came off of Highway 61.
Oh, yeah.
Man, just the way it starts off with that drum, and then this music, this beautiful music, just pops out. It was kind of coming from him after Bring It All Home was partially acoustic, and the other side was electric or plugged in, or whatever have you. But this was just full blown out with Michael Bloomfield, and it was just a great track. I still love that song. It's been covered many times. My favorite cover by it will be by Jimi Hendrix. He does that song because he's all. I mean, that was his favorite was Bob Dylan. That's why his hair was the way it was.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix was trying to get his hair like the Blonde on Blonde album cover. That's why it was like that. And he wanted to write songs like Bob, and everything came from Bob, except for the guitar playing. Of course, he did that himself. But Bob taught him that anything was possible, and that's why Hendrix became who Hendrix was. But that song just was, for 1965, it was a long track. It was a track that had about 5 or 6 different verses, and just talked about the downtrodden that sometimes people can turn into after being the top of the tops and then going down to the bottom of the bottoms. Which it's a song to always appreciate what you have. So that's my number one for lead off track on an album. It's going to be Like a Rolling Stone by the one and only Bob Dylan.
All right, man. So my number one, and I'm going to be the obvious one here, but I remember first hearing this song and it just fucking blew me away. I've told the story many times before that like I recorded this song just after this album off of radio when they used to play album sides and stuff, and it's got to be "Spirit of Radio" by Rush. I could have went with a number of Rush albums. Like I was toying with picking "Anthem," the first song with Neil. I could have picked "Bastille Day," another great opening track.
Oh, yeah.
2112 Overture.
2112. Yeah, A Farewell to Kings and stuff like that. But Tom Sawyer, But ultimately, like, this is my favorite Rush album of all time. And Spirit of Radio, just that opening riff that Alex does is just iconic in my opinion. It's like one of the most recognizable openings, man. I love everything about it. And the song is about the commercialization of radio, obviously, and ironically, it became a radio hit for them. They're basically slamming radio, and it becomes
a radio hit, right?
It becomes a radio hit.
The words of the prophets are written on the studio walls.
Yeah, exactly, man. The days of freeform radio are fading out. And everything was becoming a rigid, playlists and all that stuff. So corporations were taking over, and ironically, that became a hit for them. And so,
and it's funny now in most places that song is part of that 40 song playlist.
Yeah, Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the tracks you hear a lot. But you know what? That's one of those tracks I never get tired of hearing, though, man.
No.
Yeah.
You know?
Right from that opening guitar.
Yeah. And just it's it's been what has it been 4 years now since Neil passed away, man. Just his anniversary of that just passed. So
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Time's going by quickly and stuff. So
that's because we're so busy.
Yeah. That's my number one, man. So we'll go through some honorables. Joe, if you want to touch on some.
Well, I can't, Al. I can't believe you didn't pick the song that you named your podcast after.
Yeah,
but
could have went with that one too.
Could have went with that one. Of course, like I said, one of my honorable mentions that was originally on my list that Al talked about was "Stop This Game" from Cheap Trick off of All Shook Up.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, brother.
Oh no, but I'm glad someone talked about it because that was one I didn't expect any of you guys to pick. But
yeah,
hey, more power to you. I'm glad somebody talked about it. It's a great track. Definitely underrated in their discography. Definitely check that album out. Like you said, for anyone that cuts off after Dream Police,
yeah,
it's definitely worth it listening to that album. It's still the original lineup. It's still a great album. I mean, after that, I didn't get into much of their stuff in the 80s. Other than that, I really kind of came back in with Woke Up With a Monster and the 97 album. But All Shook Up, other than like one or two tracks, it's a great album, and that's a great way to open it up. But my other picks are for honorable mentions are ones that are a little bit more kind of popular picks. Like I said, I was kind of sticking a little bit more out of the ordinary on my list, but ones that I just really love that are a little bit more popular. Rock Till You Drop off of Pyromania by Def Leppard, great opening track. The Police, Message in a Bottle, All Forgot It Belong. Possibly my favorite Police album, goes back and forth between this and the first album, but great way to open that album with one of the most famous guitar riffs of all time. You guys both
they only have 4 albums. That's just crazy.
5.
They only have 5. Okay, still.
Yeah, still. What a great career! What a great career! 5 albums in and out, done.
Yep.
You guys both picked a Sabbath album. I'll go ahead and pick a different Sabbath album, one that we've all actually talked about together not too long ago, and one that I know Andy wasn't too crazy about the opening track of, Hole in the Sky by Black Sabbath off Sabotage. One of my favorite Black Sabbath songs. Great way to open this album. Great track. And lastly, one that's really, really special to me because it was, in my memory, the first album that I ever heard. My dad had it on cassette tape, and most people, when they listen to this song, they have to listen to the single version because the intro goes on for too long. But when I was a kid, the intro was what fascinated me. And I'm talking about Detroit Rock City off of Kiss's Destroyer. This was the first album I ever heard when I was growing up. When I was just probably 1 or 2 years old, I was sitting transfixed in front of my stereo with my dad's cassette copy of this album, and I wore his cassette out. If he hadn't already done it, I wore it out even more. And just this album is what made me a music fan. And it's why Kiss is still my favorite band of all time. And it's just, what a way to open an album. After your first 3 albums are really straightforward hard rock, just kind of get in, get out. I mean, the albums opened with Strutter, Got to Choose, and Room Service, pretty straightforward rock songs. Yep. You get into this, and it's this kind of weird intro with all these noises in the radio, and then the motorcycle revving up, and all of a sudden it kicks into this, which is really different from anything they'd done before that. And it's just such a great, great song. It's still one of their most popular songs. Yep. One of my absolute favorites. I had to include one of my honorable mentions.
Awesome. I love that album. That's my favorite Kiss album. Is Destroyer.
I can't hear you, Al.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my mic got muted. It's almost conceptual, like the way it opened. It's like I love the build up on that. Like you hear somebody get in a car and go and hear the radio on, and you hear like a news reporter, and I think is that news reporter Gene?
I think so.
I think so.
Like him, man. I think I saw somebody like talked and like that was like Bob Ezrin or somebody said it was Gene.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow, really? I gotta listen closely again.
Yeah, it sounds like
Yeah,
him, man.
it's him.
Sounds like it's him.
Okay.
But I can never listen to Detroit Rock City without the crash at the end in the
Yeah.
King of the Nighttime World.
Oh yeah.
You have to.
I
You
love
have
that,
to.
man. I love that.
It's so what an amazing way to open up an album. And that's what I said, what the first album that I ever heard growing up, and it's stuck with me ever since. That's why I'm sitting here with all these freaking CDs and
I know.
stuff behind me.
Great collection,
A
man.
one start that there's always that one that gets you started.
Hey, and I worked on organizing all my CDs. I got some more storage over Christmas. I have an Excel spreadsheet, that way I don't buy things over again. I think on the Excel spreadsheet I'm up to 980 some CDs. So.
Wow. I'm trying to catalog my stuff on Discogs. Actually,
That's my next step. For me, it's easier just to get the Excel spreadsheet, just type artist album done. That way, like I said, mainly it's just so, because I was starting to run into the thing where I was like, do I have that already? Do I have that already?
well, the nice thing about the Discogs is you can get the app on your phone.
Yeah, I have the Discogs app.
Yeah, and then it's got the little thing where you can actually scan the UPC.
Oh, it does. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, you don't have to type. You don't have to type it in. You can just scan like when you scan, the bar thing,
yeah,
it'll pop up. Now when you do that, I mean, there's going to be different versions of the album that pops up.
Mm-hmm.
You got to kind of go through it and pick the version that you have.
Yeah,
but it's cool. It saves time on. But when you go back to the real old albums on some of that, they didn't have that UPC thing, so that you have to manually. And dude, I mean, it does catalog what pressings, and you got to actually look at the vinyl sometimes and look at that inner ring.
Look at the inner ring, yeah,
where they scratch, like, what pressing plant it was at and all that shit. Because I mean, they really break it down on like Discogs, like what version.
Discogs really gets into it, and people people that buy stuff on Discogs, I see people all the time online talking about, I bought a copy on Discogs and it wasn't the right copy and all this stuff, and everyone's like, calm down, bud.
Yeah, people really get into like, oh, it wasn't pressed at this plant, it was pressed at this plant, and this guy like mastered it, and you can really get deep in the weeds with that shit, dude. I'm not that hardcore, but I do like to catalog which one I do have, if I ever, because I want to leave my whole catalog behind. Like if God forbid one day I'm not around, for my daughter to at least know what she has. Yeah. And it's cool because it catalogs the kind of the worth of the what it's worth.
Right.
Yeah, I love how Discogs does it, where they have the average and the median and all this different stuff, like what they're selling for.
Yeah. So those were your honorables there?
Yeah, those are my honorables, yep.
All right, cool. All right, Andy, man, how about you, brother?
Well, I like to catalog my albums on allmusic.com.
That's a good one too. I've heard people talk about that one.
And it gives me, it's like as soon as I log on there, it gives me the number. I think I'm at 22 something with all my albums and cassettes and CDs. And it's pretty cool because every time I buy something, I just press add to my collection. So when I'm out shopping, everything's in alphabetical order too. Mm-hmm. So I can just go to the letter C and see, okay, I got that Cheap Trick, but I need this one. Let me go ahead and buy it. Because sometimes you forget what you have. Sometimes I just come on and go, crap, I already have this.
That's why I started cataloging, because I was running, especially on vinyl. I generally know what CDs I have. Yeah. The vinyl was really starting to run together. It was like, I know I have this on CD. Do I have it on vinyl? And I was running them like, crap, I already do. Or like I pass up on something and I get home, I'm like, shit, I didn't have that, and I've never seen one before, and I really should have bought it. And I'm like, shit. Yeah, so now I started a catalog. I'm like, I gotta do something here.
Oh, so I love that tool. It's great. My songs for honorable mentions: "Cheer Up Rock" by Smashing Pumpkins for Signing the Queen. Fantastic.
Love that opening. That's probably my favorite Smashing Pumpkins song, dude.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Great. I tried to stay away from debut albums because I'm not too sure if I had already mentioned them, so I kept them on the honorable mentions. The Stooges 1969. That's a great song. I know that I've never talked about this, but I'm going to mention it. Off the album Sex Packets by Digital Underground.
Oh,
Humpty Dance. I love that song. I've always loved that song ever since I was in high school. The Humpty Dance. I once got crazy in a Burger King bathroom. I'm crazy. Love that song. Also Yankee Rose off
Nice.
by David
wow,
Lee
good one.
Roth, also Eat 'em and Smile. I love this album by Don Henley, the title track, End of the Innocence. Such a great starter. Hollywood Nights by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band opens up Stranger in Town. Boston's More Than a Feeling. We get
Yeah.
introduced to the band Boston that way. Hotel California by the Eagles. Another epic, monumental, one of the greatest songs ever. And that's all for my honorable mentions. Everything else I talked about.
All right, man. I mean, I know we usually pick like 5 honorables, but like I got a couple albums. I'm gonna go with Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith. Great opening track
Yeah.
on an album. I mean, it just comes out of the gate just swinging, man. You
Totally.
know,
Totally.
the Stones, "Start Me Up"
Oh,
on "Tattoo You,"
I love
very
it.
iconic. You know, like that riff, man. When you hear that riff, man, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
on the hip hop front, I'm gonna go with Peter Piper from Run DMC's "Raising Hell."
Mm.
I love them. I've always loved Run DMC. Great opening, great opening track. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with Hell's Bells. You know, off of ACDC's Back in Black. Um, you know, they got a couple other ones. Dogman by King's X. I love that. I would,
Oh yeah.
you know, give me $1. I mean, just right off the bat, just goes right into it. Them Bones by Alice in Chains. I love the
Oh,
way it opens up Dirt. You know,
so fucking good.
I
God.
know Ace of Spades, dude. You know,
Yeah.
that's another great opener. Radio Free Europe by REM. Love that
Mhm.
one.
Yeah.
Angel of Death, Slayer.
Mhm.
Livewire, Motley Crue. Holy Wars by Megadeth. That's a great one. It opens up Rust in Peace. Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones.
Oh, of
You
course.
know, that's just a couple of them I'll touch on. It's straight out of Compton by NWA. I could throw that one in there too.
I thought about that one too, but I threw in Humpty Dance instead.
That may have been actually mentioned on that other show that we did. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
I think
Oh,
it
it
was. Yeah.
was.
I think straight out of Compton. I think I may have picked that one, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we had a little discussion about that and NWA and the Posse.
Yeah.
yeah,
Whether that counted as the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
as the debut. But the NWA and the Posse was more of like a compilation of
yeah.
like
It was.
it wasn't just
Yeah.
strictly NWA. So I remember the little debate we had on that one. But
Yeah.
but yeah, man, that's the show, man. So that was our favorite opening tracks, you know, for the month of January 2024. Great way to kick it off. And Joe, I want to thank you for being on as usual.
Thank you, Joe.
You're you're a definite regular on the show. We love you having you always, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
And
Thank you guys.
that great collection behind you, bro. You
Yeah,
know?
like Mark says, I always am able to pull out something out of my bag of tricks
Oh,
over here. I'm always
Yeah.
always got something close by.
Yeah. Yeah. So we thank you. And Andy, man, take it away, bro. What do we got going on next week?
oh yeah. Next week, a big show. We've got the band Dawn of the Rising, and that is going to be on our show. They've got a new album coming out on the 19th, and so they'll be on our show on the 17th to talk about that album.
That's
I spoke to the guitar player this morning, Iggy. This will be their third time on Black Spinner Circle,
yeah.
so we're very familiar with them.
They haven't been on in a long time though, but
Yeah, yeah, it's been a while, so we get to talk to them. I had asked him who's all going to be there, and he just said the guys. So I'm expecting, because most of the time it's just him and Ray Kuhn, who's the lead singer.
yeah.
But I'll be very excited to see who else is going to be on there. We're going to be talking about our top 15 Metallica songs. So that's going to be fun because I remember we had done Metallica albums with them and Judas Priest albums. I always try to keep it heavy with those guys because they're
Yeah.
a hard rock heavy metal band. They are out of the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
So they'll be coming out with an album. It's going to be available on CD format and um all streaming sites. And
Platforms, yeah.
they are already on Spotify and on Apple of their previous releases. I'll send you some clips, Joseph. You're not too
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
So that's what we have going on next week, and I think Al and I will talk about this a little bit more, but I think we're going to end the month with the albums that came out monthly, so that we can stay current with the new albums that are coming out. I haven't seen anything yet for the month of January, but we'll keep talking about topics, and I know Al's got a whole bunch of topics in the top of his head, and so do I. So we got a lot of stuff coming on. So
Yeah.
um, so just
Yeah. And not this Saturday, following Saturday for me, I'm gonna go see Kansas. It's gonna be awesome.
Dude, this tour is
Yeah.
so good.
I haven't seen them in quite a few years, so it's gonna be cool.
The new violinist is insanely good.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. That's not this Saturday. The following Saturday, they're playing down here in Florida, so not too far from me. It's gonna be great. That's what I got coming up concert wise. And again, next Wednesday we got Dawn of the Rising.
Yep.
Looking forward to chatting with those guys. I gotta check out their new album. It's dropping next week. You said, Andy?
Yes, it's dropping on the 19th. They're going to have it available on CD, and it's going to be on all streaming formats.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, so that's our show for tonight, man. So again, Joe, thanks for coming, brother.
Thanks.
And Andy, my co-host, love you, my man, and we'll see you guys next week, man.
Yeah. We will see y'all here next week on the Black Spinner Music Podcast. Thanks,
Y'all-
Joe. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, cheers, man. Have a great night.
Take care, y'all.